Alvíssmál. Excerpt from the Prose Edda, Norse Mythology. Context. While Thor is away hunting the monsters as he's wont to do, the gods had played a trick on him by marrying off his daughter to a hideous dwarf named Alvis, meaning the All-Knower. In this story, Thor uses his cunning to banish Alvis back from whence he came. Alvis speaks. Now shall the bride my benches adorn, and homeward haste forthwith, eager for wedlock, to all I seem, nor at home shall they rob me of rest. Thor speaks. What, pray, arst thou? Why so pale around the nose? By the dead hast thou lain of late? To a giant like dost thou look, methinks. Thou wast not born for the bride. Alvis speaks. Alvis I am, and under the earth, my home neath the rocks I have. With the wagon guider, a word I do seek. Let the gods get their bond not break. Thor speaks. Break it I shall, for over the bride her father has foremost right. At home I was not, when the promise thou hadst, I had given her alone of the gods. Alvis speaks. What hero claims such right to hold, or the bride that shines so bright? Not many will know thee, thou wandering man, who has brought the rings to bear thee. Thor speaks. Thor the hurler I am, the wanderer, wide I am Sigithrani's son, and against my will thou shalt get the maid, and win the marriage word. Alvis speaks. Thy good will now shall I quickly get, and win the marriage wood. I long to have, and would not like to lack, this snow-white maid of mine. Thor speaks. The love of a maid I shall not keep thee, winning from thou, guess not so wise. If of every world thou cannot tell me what I wish to know, answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, a dwarf of the doom of men. What call they earth that lies before us all, in each and every world? Alvis speaks. Earth to men, field to the gods is what it is. The ways called by the wains, evergreen called by the giants, the grower called by elves, moist by the holy ones high. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What call they heaven, beheld of the High One, in each and every world? Alvis speaks. Heaven men call it, the height the gods, the wains the weaver of winds, the giants the upworld, elves call it the fair roof, to us dwarves the dripping hall. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, the dwarf of doom of men. What call they the moon, the men behold in each and every world? Alvis speaks. The moon of men, flame the gods among, the wheel to the house of hell, the goer that called by the giants, the gleamer called by the dwarves, to the elves the teller of time. Thor speaks. Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What call they the sun, that all men see in each and every world? Men call it the sun, gods the orb of the sun. The deceiver of Dalvin call the dwarves, to the giants the ever-bright, elves call the wheel fair, all glowing the sons of the gods. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What call they the clouds that keeps the rains in each and every world? Alvis speaks. The clouds men name them, rain-hope the gods call them. The wains call them the kites of the wind, water-hope called the giants, weather-might the elves, the helmet of secrets in hell. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call the wind, that windest fair in each and every world? Alvis speaks. Wind do men call it, to the gods the waverer, the neigher to the high ones high, the wailer to the giants, roaring wender to the elves. In hell speak the blustering blast. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call the calm, the quiet lies in each and every world? Alvis speaks. Calm men call it, the quiet calls the gods, the wains the hush of the winds. They call it sultry, the giants, elves the days of stillness, to the dwarves the shelter of the day. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call the sea, whereon men sail in each and every world? Alvis speaks. Well, men call it the sea, to the gods the smooth laying, the wave called the wains, eel home by the giants, drink stuff by the elves, and us dwarves, we call it the deep. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call fire that flames for men in each of all of the worlds? Alvis speaks. Well, men call it fire, the flame called the gods. By the wains they call it wildfire, biter called the giants, the burner by the dwarves. In the houses of hell they call it swift. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call wood that grows for us in each and every world? Alvis speaks. Men call it the wood, gods the main in the field, seaweed in the hills of hell, flame wood the giants, fair limbed the elves, the wand called by the Wanes. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call the nights, the daughter of Nor, in each and every world? Alvis speaks. Night men call it, darkness gods name it, the hood the high holy ones call, the giants the lightless, the elves sleep joy. To the dwarves we call it the waver of dreams. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call the seed that's sown by men in each and every world? Men call it grain, gods call it corn, growth in the world of Wanes, the eaten stuff by the giants, drink stuff by the elves. In hell, the slender stem. Thor speaks. Answer me, Alvis, thou knowest all, dwarf of the doom of men. What do they call ale that's quaffed us in each and every world? Ale men call it, beer the gods among, in the world of the Wanes the foaming. Bright drought, says the giants, mead in the dwellers of hell, the feast drought in Sutton's sons. At last, Thor speaks. I have never seen in a single breast more wealth of the wisdom old, but with treacherous wiles I must now betray thee, and the day has caughten thee, dwarf, now sun shines in my hall. The sunlight banished the dwarf back from whence he came, returning to the rocks.